Hey guys, welcome to the channel. This is part 7 of What If Naruto Was Sent to the Highschool DxD universe. It's a story about Naruto gets sent to the Highschool DxD world during the fight with Kaguya. Also check out previous parts of this What If, link is in description. And I have created a playlist for this What If, where you can find all the previous parts, check that out as well. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content, it really means a lot. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. And also check the description for the creator of this great fanfic and support them for making this fanfic. So let's start this video. A little brown feathered bird perched on Naruto's head and stretched its wings as it chirped happily. And Naruto was never one to be bothered by soft morning breeze swayed his hair gently as he sat Indian style with extreme focus as he purified nature energy. If he had his eyes open, he would see tiny light particles around him moving haphazardly as they lighted the space around him. Clear all thoughts. He repeated Fukasaku's word when he was in Mount Miyaboku. Draw on sage energy and balance it with yours. Become one with nature. His mind's eye could see the tiny green toad with a stick hitting him in the head with it. Naruto was privileged to learn senjutsu, a rare art even for shinobis. And he loved it not only because of the massive boost of chakra, endurance, speed, strength, and sensory abilities it granted, but for its non-combat uses. It also helped his sanity in so many ways, as it helped calm his nerves and wash out any negative energy he had accumulated. The moment he dived deep into meditation was his favorite, because he would forget about everything and empty his mind. He had inner peace. He frowned when he suddenly picked up something. What's this feeling? It's like my peaceful anonymous days are numbered, he said. Clang. Naruto's face contorted with extreme focus. He tried to ignore the sound coming from somewhere in the park. Clank. He clasped both hands together, and the veins on his temples bulged as he tried his best to keep his focus. Skirt, clank. Naruto grind his teeth with rising exasperation. Who dared disturb his session with sword practice? Whoever it was, he was going to shove a Gudadama so deep into his ass he would lose the ability to excrete forever. Clang, boom. Alright, that's it. I'm gonna go kill whoever's making those sounds. The little bird flew away when Naruto stood up lightning fast and dispelled the nature chakra he had gathered. What he didn't see in that split second was the disappearing little lights around him, because of the wave of chakra he released. With his eyes still closed, he tried to track the culprit. The bat. I should have known, he said with contempt as he pumped chakra into his legs and took a massive leap towards east from where he was. While in the air, he watched as the trees blurred by. He landed hard on the floor with a frown and flooded the area with color intent. His eyes scanned the area furiously as fountains and benches and tree blurred around him. Before his eyes went past a blurred blonde, white and black humanoid figure. He shifted his gaze back, and the blurred figure cleared, and his eyes and brain processed every detail carefully. Udo? He asked incredulously. Said boy was drenched in sweat, shivering as the sword in his hands clattered violently in a sloppy stance. Their eyes met, and Naruto suddenly remembered he had to keep his killer intent at bay. You're disturbing me, brat. Go find somewhere else to play with your swords, he said as he turned and canceled his ki. Kiba fell on all fours, breathing hard as the pressure on him suddenly disappeared. The Knight of Gremory raised his face up and stared at Naruto's back. He felt so weak in front of his teacher, like he was nothing but a fly. He wished he had power to revenge his fallen comrades, and the power to destroy all Excalibur. Naruto could give him the kind of power he desperately needed. Naruto-sensei. He called desperately when he heard Naruto's footsteps gradually decrease. Please, teach me, he asked with a bow. Naruto groaned and fasped him several times. He wasn't ready to babysit a devil right now. He's been frustrated recently, and he came here to release it all, not add into it. The shinobi turned around and stared at the devil. He had his head on the floor, shaking like a wet puppy. Look, kid, why did you think I told Issei not to tell anyone I trained him? He started with a sigh. It's because I didn't want attention to myself. I just want to live, grow old and die alone. Kiba gritted his teeth as he felt his only chance slipping. Please, I'm begging you. I need your power to revenge my wronged comrades. Kiba said as tears slipped his eyes. He was emotionally and physically unstable right now. The frown on Naruto's face disappeared and was replaced with his bored face. He had a mini flashback of how Team 7 died when they faced Kaguya, and the mad rage he felt. Rise, he commanded, and Kiba obeyed. What is your goal? He questioned. To destroy all Excalibur. After that, what do you want to do next after you have achieved that? I want to serve Bucho as a worthy knight, and protect my fellow peerage members with my life. He began with uncertainty, and ended with conviction. But you already are. What do you mean? He asked, a bit confused at Naruto's words. I saw you, Udo, the way you were on guard when I was around that cow-tit brat. And your friends. You were ready to draw your sword at my slightest movement. Kaiba blushed at his praise. You would have died if you did. He pegged down Kaiba with a straight face. He doesn't hold back any punches. Kaiba faceplants. I wish I could help you. But I'm no sword master. I only know how to use these babies. Two kunis poof into his hands. A kunai, are you a ninja or something? He quipped. Though the Prince of Kuo didn't know how right he was. You were in front of Naruto fucking Uzumaki, the greatest ninja on earth, the hero of Konoha, the apprentice of the Toad Sage. The future Hokage. Well, that one was out of his reach for now. You speak as if ninjas aren't real. He scoffed. The watered-down version of ninjas on this planet was an eyesore for Naruto. I mean all black, ninja stars. And what's with those poor hand signs? All they know is smoke bombs. And climbing trees, etc. A genin could do all that. And many more with their eyes closed. They're not, Kaiba said casually. Really? A bat. Telling me ninjas aren't real? He asked with a face. And folded his arms on his chest. Kaiba had two thoughts about the existence of ninjas now. I really wish I could help. But swordplay isn't my thing. I'm sure I've never used one in my life. He stated. Kaiba looked crestfallen to hear that. This was his only chance to gain more power. Naruto had to think of something worse anyway to help him. Can't you think of something for me? He asked with a gradual wane of hope. What are your pros? He queried. As a knight, I have increased speed. Whatever he was about to say was interrupted. But a little light bulb hovering above Naruto's head turned on. I could help you instead your speed. He offered. On the outside he was calm, but on the inside, he was thinking about how to torment Issei's life, with the ID Kaiba had unintentionally provided. How? He asked. Naruto motioned for him to come closer. And he obliged. Naruto placed a hand on his shoulder. As he neared him, Kaiba grunted as his weight trucked. And he fell to his knees. For your first task, you have to follow me in this condition. Naruto said. Or is it too much? He asked as he craned his neck. No sensei. I'll manage. Kaiba struggled to get up. And the fatigue didn't help at all. Naruto turned back and placed both hands on his back. He didn't even turn back to check on Kaiba as he moved at high speed ahead. I think I'm gonna. He panted heavily. As he tried to say, before he fell face first on Naruto's floor. The time read 6:30 a.m., when the blonde knight managed to enter the shinobi's house, and Naruto had just exited the bathroom. Oh, you arrived faster than I had expected. Good job, Yudo. Naruto complimented. Kaiba, who was still on the floor, somehow nodded his head in appreciation. Dirt riddled his clothes. And a twig was stuck in his hair. And he looked like hell. Naruto told him to take a bath as he walked into the kitchen. And opened one of the wall cabins. The cabin was full of ramen. But today he wanted to cook something else, so he opened another cabin. And all he could find was ramen. He turned on the stove with a shrug. And searched for his favorite pot. Kaiba, if it used magic, to summon a spare uniform, was sitting patiently in deep thought as he accessed the quirk teacher. What did he know about him? He had no friends, no relatives and no goals. His train of thought was interrupted when Naruto placed a bowl of ramen on the table. Eat up. I'm going out. Naruto, now dressed in a black blazer and matching skinny jeans, fastened an orange wristwatch. The blonde still couldn't do without orange. Kaiba ate with speed worthy of his title, and he watched as Naruto did some crazy hand gesture, and a faint glow appeared around the house. Naruto and Kaiba hadn't gone too far when Kaiba stopped. Sensei, can you add more weight? Naruto asked a confused eyebrow for a second before he grasped what he meant and handed him a seal. With this paper, you can release the effect of the technique, or increase it any time you want. Kaiba collected the seal with a bow. Thank you. I owe you my life. He added. You owe me nothing, bad. Kaiba smiled when Naruto used the rude nickname he had for devils. Have a safe trip. He screamed with a bow, and Naruto waved him off. Scene change. Arena Shido, a female holy exorcist with violet orbs and chestnut hair and buns, was having a hard time fighting Fried Selzen, a ruse priest, who was in possession of the stolen Excaliburs. If Zenobia was here they would have finished him off, but here she was held up inside a barrier which was designed to cut off help from the outside, fighting for her life without a friend beside her. Her Excalibur mimic obeyed her mental order, and transformed itself to a chain blade as she swung it at the incoming Fried. Said guy had a crazy look on his face with his tongue sticking out of his mouth. He dodged to the side and the sword turned to a katana. She went for a diagonal slash, and Fried, using the speed granted by Excalibur Rapid, parried her slash and punched her in the stomach, which made the grip she had on the sword loosen, as he slapped her hands upward. Fried grabbed Excalibur Mimic, now taking the form of a katana, in the air, and kicked her in the stomach. Naruto loved to visit the park because of the trees and the people, the serene environment it provided. On the other hand, he hated visiting the park because bad things happened in there. For example, the Kyoto kid died in a park. And fallen angels attacked him in a park, and that black-haired Nekomata attacked him in a park too. What's next? He would have his first kiss in a park. And a moment later, lo and behold, he turned his head sideways, and saw a barrier was in the distance with negative emotions brimming to its fullest in it. The shinobi wanted nothing to do with it, but the fact that there was another holy signature emitting despair in his hero complex, something he thought he had suppressed, was what drove him as he ran towards the barrier. "Looks like this is the end of the line for you, bitch," Fried said, as he grabbed her throat and impaled the sword deep in the tree she was pinned on. Irina gave a grunt as her back impacted with the tree harshly, its bark scratching at her back. "Maybe you could still prove useful, before I kill you," he sneered as he licked her face. Irina, disgusted by this, summoned enough power and kicked him where the sun doesn't shine. Fried's face went white as he grabbed his family's jewels and let out a sigh of relief. It was safe. The female exorcist tried to capitalize on the surprise attack, but Fried recovered quickly than expected, and slammed her back into the tree roughly. "I'm gonna fucking kill you, bitch," he roared as he gripped his sword and took aim at her forehead. Irina saw his life flash before her eyes as the sword neared. She then realized one thing: she was so young, and she wanted to so much with her friend Zenobia. As a last effort, she closed her eyes and prayed to God for a savior. "You're alright, chestnut twin tails?" an unfamiliar voice asked her. Though she was in heaven and a messenger angel had come to welcome her to heaven, but when she opened her eyes, she saw a blond man holding the bladed sides of Excalibur Rapid and a struggling Fried. "A knight in shining armor for me to kill Hazab." Fried's dialogue was stopped by an elbow to the face courtesy of Naruto, which he blocked, but the force behind the elbow reeled him back. He skidded to halt, and he brought his sword to the side. "And you are?" He started before the stench of a devil assaulted his nose, which made a scowl grace his face. "Demon lovers like you should know their place," he sneered and took off towards Naruto. The ninja had his eyes on Irina, while he was completely disregarded Fried when the psychotic white-haired dude called him a demon lover. He didn't like that one bit, so he grabbed the sword log beside Irina's face and flicked it at Fried with his back still turned to him. For Naruto, it was a mere flick, but for Friedel, it was as fast a bullet. Thanks to the stolen Excalibur, he was able to bring up his sword on time. To parry the incoming went off both swords as they collided in the air and their trajectory altered. Irina, who still has her back to the tree, stared at Naruto's uninterested blue orbs and how he was fending off Fried effortlessly. She felt lightheaded due to a particular nasty kick to her temple a while ago, and her visions were starting to get blurry. The fear of death was the only thing fueling her, and now that this stranger was here, she felt safe. However, that feeling was going down the drain when she saw Fried charging at them with intense speed. She willed her body to move, to push him out of harm's way, but unfortunately, her body didn't move an inch. The female exorcist's eyes widened when Naruto pointed his index and middle finger at the incoming Fried and called forth a huge bullet of water. What in the world? Were her thoughts before her legs became wobbly and her eyelids heavy. Naruto screamed at her not to fall unconscious. He wasn't about to carry another unconscious woman, a half-naked one, to his house, and leaving her here alone like this would surely attract perverts. With a loud groan, he hefted her unconscious body and disappeared into thin air. Scene change. The Gregory group were in front of a magic barrier that surrounded the entire school, getting ready for the battle of their life. Kokabiel, the cadre, class fallen angel, or should I say cadre crow, who fought in the Great War, wasn't satisfied with the ceasefire going on, ergo he wanted to kill Surzich's little sister and spark another war. He wanted to hear the screams of devils and angels as he cut through them like a lawnmower, and he would do anything to start another war. So here he was, sitting inside a floating chair inside a barrier constructed around Kyoto, waiting patiently for his praise. And there was that saying, "The patient crow packs the fattest bone," or whatever. Sauna and her peerage helped construct the barrier to protect the rest of Kyoto, but if they failed to defeat Kokabiel, he would destroy Kao. The bespectacled Citri knew they couldn't handle this on their own, so they had to hold out till reinforcement arrived. With their strategies planned out and their spears high, they entered Third Beloved School ready for battle. Ryu's had high hopes because she had Kiba and Zenobia with them, who wanted to know the whereabouts of Irina. Scene change. Naruto had a tick mark on his head as he paced around his living room with an unconscious Irina played on the couch sleeping comfortably. The amount of dark energies clashing together, and a huge burst of holy energy plus all the negative emotions he was sensing was irritating to say the least. Can't a ninja have a day without any trouble? Is it too much to ask? Speaking of trouble, the chestnut lady was jerking around in her sleep, muttering something about fusing Excaliburs and blow to kingdom come. He couldn't make heads nor tail of what she was saying in her sleep, then she woke up screaming all of a sudden. "Whoa, you alright?" he asked as he eased her back into the sofa. "Where am I? Who are you? How did I get here? Where's my sword?" The chestnut-haired girl bombarded Naruto with questions. She scanned the unfamiliar room and winced a bit when she tilted her head. "You're in my place." She stared at her hands riddled with bruises and slash mark on his clothes, and the first thing that came to mind was maybe this guy had done something perverted to her. The memory of what happened hit her when she was about to scream hentai. All she learned when she fought Fried and their plan all came back to her. "I have to find Zenobia," she said as he bolted right up. "Who?" He's going to kill them all. I don't want to say to die. Naruto grimaced at that. That boy was always in the center of it all. A magnet for trouble. He watched as she paced around the room looking for something. Where's my sword? Irina queried impatiently. The other guy escaped with it. He answered. Damn it. I have to go. She hastily made way towards the door. Naruto wondered if she didn't realize her state of dressing or if she was that zealot about saving her friends. He turned towards her and watched as her half-exposed ass bounced with a certain jiggle only supernatural women have. He picked a baggy white shirt and threw it at her skull. He inhaled sharply, and remembered he had a side project was going to embark on, a self-given project about something. What was it again? He couldn't remember. Irina stooped and grabbed the clothes, and gave him a look of appreciation, and wore the long shirt which was acting like a gown. She reached for the knob, and opened it halfway, before she stopped and turned her head. I'd suggest you evacuate. Just in case they failed to stop Kokabiel. She said and flung the door open. Evacuate? He pondered. What was going on in there? What was that sudden burst of holy energy? He could sense another burst of holy and devil energy together. What do you mean? His question halted her again. Kokabiel wants to destroy all of Kuro. The blonde teacher's orbs whitened a bit at that information. He had decided not to interfere with the battle going on, but an entire city hanged in the balance of this one. Should he sit this one out? What would he gain if he joined the fray? He did a mental check on the pros and cons and came to a conclusion. The cons far outweighed the pros. A huge red eye with black slits snapped open, and Naruto found himself in his mindscape in front of Kurama, who hid his head on his paws and his tail saving around. What are you going to do? Kurama asked. Nothing. He replied, it's devil business. He replied and folded his arms on his chest. A huge furred paw slammed beside him, and sent bursts of winds and water around. Naruto stuck to the unstable water surface using chakra, and shielded his eyes from the violent winds. Naruto, what are you becoming? The nine-tailed fox barked at his face. A bark it might be for the mountain huge off, but for Naruto, it was something else. Oi, what do you mean? He retorted. You've changed so much, Uzumaki, and I'm ashamed of the man you've become. Kurama said with disdain. Naruto narrowed his eyes at him. For a second there, Madara's image overlapped yours. Don't compare me to that man. These people lives at stake here. Granted, you don't even know them, but what about the Kyoto kid? His mom? Those devils? Your students? The Kyuubi and Kitsune asked, and whatever Naruto wanted to say died in his throat. Come on Naruto, you're the Uzumaki Naruto. Where is the boy I respected? The boy who would never give up when all the odds stack up. The boy that gave a damn about people in danger. I'm doing this to maintain our animosity. Kulpa is onto us and you know how dangerous they are. He defended. You're using that as an excuse. Our animosity isn't what's at stake here, and if Kulpa comes, you have our full support. Go Naruto. Show me the ninja I once believed in. I know he's in there, he's just suppressed, sleeping, down for a while, and when he wakes up, I pity those who comes after him and his loved ones. Naruto stared hard at the water like it would all dry up if he stared hard enough. They knew that Baka Kitsune could be a good motivator like this. He got much more bigger than he was used to, after all, he was complete again. You know. He started with a chuckle, something he hadn't done in a while. You'd make a good speech motivator if you put your mind to it. He finished with a laugh. Kurama chatted and slapped Naruto away with one of his tails. Scene changed. Is this the might of the head of the Gremory clan? Kokabiel began as he slowly descended with a huge light spear in hand. And all 10 black wings out. He gazed at all of them on the floor, beaten and exhausted. Rias and her peerage with the exorcist working together couldn't defeat him. And that was a letdown. The Red Dragon Emperor was the only challenge he had. But the boy's sacred gear at his current state wasn't enough to put him down. He was impressed though, the boy was still standing after all that. He had expected a thrilling battle. And all he got was weaklings. On the upside, he got to see a balance breaker with the ability to fuse holy and demonic sword. And the Red Dragon overboost. Freed laid on the floor defeated. And the fuse Excalibur's broken, he had killed off Falper Galilee himself. When he was about to reveal something he shouldn't have. The man was intelligent. But his intelligence causes his downfall. Oh well, it wouldn't hurt to let them know about it anyway. He was going to kill them in the end. You foolish exorcist, you fight with all your might, but here you are fighting for a lost cause without a master. Zenobia could feel his gaze on her. What do you mean? He asked. In the last war, God and the original devil died in battle. He said like he was stating an everyday fact. Zenobia and Aja mind sent numb, well all the devils were whole at that. That's a lie. Zenobia tried to refute. And trying to keep her mind from collapsing at the same time. I speak the candid truth. He said as he flapped his wings and took to the air. The big three decided not to reveal this so as to maintain order in the world. He finished as he raised his hands and charged up a huge spear of light. Issei, who was beside Asia holding her up from falling, winced a bit. When the light spear became much more bigger and sharper. He himself had a hard time dealing with this guy. And he wondered why he still had a straight mind after what Kokabiel revealed. The reinforcement wouldn't arrive on time. And he had to do something about it, or else they would all die. Drake, boost me. He commanded mentally. Sorry partner, but with all the transfers and overboost you did, you are at your limit. Drake replied with solemn in his words. Isn't there something I can do? To at least delay him. I'd sacrifice my arm. He asked with rising anger and despair. Bijuus herself wasn't faring good. They had managed to stop the destruction sleep he placed on Kuro. But what could stop him from destroying it himself? This is it, Grummery. Rejoice, for your death will jumpstart another way. Feel honored. Kokabiel said with the light spear now ready. He reared back his arm and threw the huge ass light spear at them. Issei stood in front of them hoping that somehow, the spear pierced only him. The sound of the rushing spear drowned out the screams of Rias and the rest. He closed his eyes and the image of his mom and dad flashes before his eyes. Issei heard a shattering sound, and thought it was the sound of the devil killed by a light spear. TSK, troublesome kids. I can't let you kill my students like that, Alfiered Crow. A familiar voice revered. He opened his eyes and waved his hands to push away the dust that had accumulated in the air, and when it all cleared, a familiar blonde unruly hair and a black blazer greeted his sight. Never had he been so overjoyed to see Naruto. Scene change. Sana and her peerage was pushed back violently when the barrier suddenly broke all of a sudden. She scanned all her members and was relieved to find all of them still on the magic circle in air. What was that? Saki asked the question on everyone's mind. I don't know, Saki, let's go check it out, she said. Do a moment there, she saw a black blur hit the barrier before they experienced that push. Was it reinforcement? Or hostile? Whatever it was, she was hoping it could save them all. Scene change. Arena, who was moving towards the barrier in the distance, halted when the barrier shattered. Did they win? She asked, and doubled her speed. Scene change. Kokabiel knew his attack wasn't successful, and he speculated on the intruder. Was it the guy freed fought when he returned? He had to wait till the dust cleared. He wanted to know. It's the second time today. My dynamic entry. I should kiss my animosity and peaceful days on this earth goodbye. Naruto noted dully. Bijuus the Red were relieved to hear Naruto's voice. But Thief Guard was still up. He was just human after all. They could use all the help they could get. Zenobia on the other hand didn't know who was talking. And his form was bathed in dust. As a teacher of this school, I am tasked to protect it from collateral damage. But when you try to kill my students, I will retaliate, he stated with a cool demeanor. Everyone including Kokabiel's odds weighed into impossible proportions when the dust cleared to reveal a calm Naruto, with one hand in pocket, and his other, holding the light spear as his blazer BL. Oh how? That's impossible. Kokabiel, who was having a hard time seeing his light spear in Naruto's hand, stuttered. Only angels and fallen angels can create and touch a light spear. It was deemed impossible for other races to touch a light spear without repercussion. Naruto looked around and thought maybe he had done something impossible. Of what was written on their face was any indication. Well, it wasn't the first time he'd do something impossible, why not add more to the list? He twirled the huge spear and found it surprisingly light. Now, Alfiered Crow, why do you want to kill my student so badly? To be honest, it makes you look like a villain. A sore one at that, he said as he brought the spear to his side in a vertical hold and removes his hand from his pocket. Kokabiel narrowed his eyes at Naruto. What are you? He asked. Me? I'm just a teacher trying to protect his students. Did Azazel send you? Who? Azazel? Who's that? Is this guy mocking me? Look, I'm gonna give you a chance to run, he said as he hit the end of spear on the floor and flooded the cadre fallen angel with ki. Kokabiel staggered in the air, and for a second, he saw a huge nine-tailed fox open its eyes. He compassed himself and replied, when I'm done with you, you'd regret coming here. He created another light spear and disappeared. Naruto's danger senses came online, and he ducked under a slash that would have surely cut off his head. He placed a hand on the floor and tried to swipe Kokabiel off his feet, which the fallen angel avoided by raising his leg. He quickly joined both hands together to block another follow kick. Naruto used Kokabiel's hands like a board and bounced off to create distance between them, and threw the light spear at its owner. It was as its target as the fallen angel took to the sky. Naruto placed 2 fingers on his wrist and 2 kunai poof out of them. He built up momentum and took a massive leap towards Kokabiel with the kunai in reverse grip. Other clashes in the air with light spear and kunai, and they started blurring around and sparks went off everywhere. Issei always knew Naruto was in a different league entirely, even though he hadn't seen a fraction of what the shinobi could do. Drake, a heavenly dragon, was wary of him, and Issei wasn't that dumb. Okay, he's dumb, but his guy almost killed him effortlessly. Rias on the other hand wasn't as freaked out as the rest were. She hadn't sown enough of his power to gauge him. Rias, are you okay? A voice snapped them out of their trance. Sana, can you guys erect another barrier? She pleaded and different magic circles surrounded them, and creates another red barrier. Is that? She said, referring to the blur fighting Kokabiel. They all watches, as both blurs created little tremors, as they landed on the school ground in a deadlock. Not bad for a human. Kokabiel complimented Naruto's skills. You haven't seen nothing yet, Crow. Naruto said as he performed a successful spinning heel kick. What he didn't expect was the several light spears that rained on him. He flexibly dodged and slapped away the spears until he grabbed one and parried them all away. He clicked his tongue and took a lax stance and pointed his open wide fingers at Kokabiel. Sand started swelling around Naruto. As Shikaku's curse mark appeared on his arms. The sand stilled and charged at the fallen angel in the sky like a snake would its prey. Kokabiel maneuvered over the tendrils of sand and cut the ones that came too far. Naruto willed the sands to a stop as they retreated to his back, and Kokabiel, who was still in the air, decided to give a bad guy monologue of sorts. High speed, excellent hand-to-hand combat and control over sand. Is that all you've got? He tired to taunt. Naruto gazed at Kokabiel in the eye with a bored expression still on his face. As he directed his gaze behind the hovering enemy, the clone of Naruto on a floating sad platform delivered a palm thrust to Kokabiel's back, and another clone created by the first one kicked him in the jaw with tremendous force. 7 clones poof out. And they all continued the assault rapidly, and when they got to a desired height, all 9 clones propelled him downwards as he hit the floor hard and created a mini crater. Issei pumped his fist and cheered loudly. Kokabiel was projected by the clones. Ryuzan and the rest of them were having a hard time dealing with the fact that 9 Narutos just poof into existence. Ryuz tried to think of a logical explanation for what she just saw, and couldn't find one. Naruto Uzumaki just created solid clones of himself. Sauna and Ria's devil minds started analyzing the usefulness of the unique ability their eccentric teacher possessed. While Akeno was still stupefied at the battle going on. Whoa! Is that Naruto-sensei? Saji couldn't believe what he was witnessing. Kokabiel didn't have enough time to even think before a huge wave of sand flooded him. Naruto slowly raised his hands, and the sand followed his gestures until it was in the air swirling around chaotically, and Naruto channeled wind chakra into the technique he was about to use, which made it more deadly as blade winds slashed at anyone trapped inside this sand. He balled up his fist tightly, and the sands contracted tightly into a ball, and he teacher his fingers horizontally with his palms facing the floor, and loaded it. The ball contracted further, and the muffled screams of Kokabiel reached everyone's ears. As Naruto sent the ball down to the ground, and scattered upon impact sending wind blades and sand around with a huge shockwave. Futen, Sabaku Sozo. He finished by calling out the name of the technique. As the winds ruffled his hair, Naruto created this technique in honor of his friend, Gar. He created this using the same principle of the Rasengan. Did he get him? Issei asked. Sauna narrowed her eyes at Naruto. He was too bored for a fight like this. Was he that strong, or is it arrogance and underestimation on his side? No, it'd take more than that to defeat him. Bijuus replied. Kokabiel stood up wobbly with blood dripping from different slash wounds, and his wings were twisted in impossible ways. His face contorted with extreme rage. As he flexed all his wings, and many popping sounds went off, as the bones rearranged themselves. He screamed to the sky. As a massive amount of holy energy which sent the devil to thief feet seeped out of his body, and with it, he created a huge bow, and a light spear covered in runes. I had fun fighting you, human. Now it is time to destroy you and all those devils once and for all. He said as he took aim at Naruto and the devils behind him. The devils, even Rias and Sauna, haven't seen a humongous spear of light like that. And they were quite frightened at that. Nair. Kiba started, before Naruto turned his head to the side and spoke. Don't worry. I've got this. He said as Kokabiel drew the bow to its limit and released the Spear of Doom. The air itself split apart for the fearsome technique. As it continued its descent towards its target, the spear was 10 inches away from Naruto, before both him and the spear disappeared all of a sudden. A huge explosion of light went off in the stratosphere, an explosion Kokabiel recognized. He had seen it too many times to forget about it. He sent my attack above. How? Scene change. Azazel was being his eccentric self while minding his own business. He was examining an interesting robot he created, while Volley was being his smug self with his hands folded on his chest. While he leaned on a wall, he was looking forward to meeting the Red Dragon Emperor, his eternal rival, and how glorious their battle would be. Bring him back alive and don't engage the Red Dragon. Azazel ordered. Both of them suddenly snapped thief head upward. As they felt a huge light energy explosion in the air, Azazel leveled his eyes with Volley, and they both revealed their wings and took off towards Kuo. Scene change. The spear. Xenovius started. It disappeared. Aja ended. Where did it go? Issei voiced their thoughts. Sauna adjusted her glasses, as she wondered where the light spear went off to. Kokabiel was still trying to grasp how his spear disappeared all of a sudden. Before he sensed it above. If the barrier wasn't there, they would all have seen a light explosion up above the clouds. The fallen angel realized he had made a huge mistake. He had lost sight of his opponent. As he turned his head around searching for Naruto, his entirety screamed at him to run and never look back, but his big ego wouldn't allow that. Come out human and face me like the man you are, he challenged with increasing paranoia. Silence filled the air, as everyone held their breath waiting for the climax of the battle. Where are you? You're too noisy. The voice of Naruto rang from above him. Kokabiel tilted his neck upwards, and verily, Naruto was there with a ball of blue energy and other small balls surrounding it. It looked like a mini solar system, but instead of huge planets with different colors, this one was small and blue. Kokabiel watched helplessly as the balls neared his face, and when they did, he felt unholy pain on his fat as the balls drilled into his fat and exploded with extreme force, and he was sent to the ground at lightning-fast speed. Naruto landed with a soft thought and scanned Kokabiel. The Wakuseir Sengun did more damage than he had expected. The guy's face was destroyed beyond repair, and honestly, he didn't give a damn. Plastic surgery could correct that, right? He asked himself. Sensei. He shifted his gaze from the downed Kokabiel and quickly braced himself for impact as Issei slammed into him with anime tears streaming down his face. Oh sensei, I thought we were toast. Thank you so much. The Red Dragon Emperor wailed like a new baby. He took a fallen angel out. Zenobia, who was using Durandal as support, said. Without a scratch. Sana noticed there was no scratch on him. He didn't even feel winded at all. That's sensei for you. Kiba didn't know a lot about Naruto, but he knew the blonde teacher was worthy of his respect. Asia beamed and clasped her hands together, happy that this was over and the citrus released the barrier. HM, what a man. A huge blush stained Keno's cheeks. Ryuz just kept on staring at Naruto, who was struggling with Issei and letting loose strings of curse at him. Get off me, you shitty brat. He raged under Issei. That's enough, Issei. Ryuz ordered her pawn as she neared them. Thank you for coming to our rescue. She bowed. I have a question. He pointed at Ryuz and Keno. Why do they jiggle every time you walk? He queried them like it was normal. Ryuz covered her exposed titles with a blush, while Keno giggled. I can't believe it. Sensei. Asia gasped and covered e-mouth. A pervert. Issei whooped loudly, which made Naruto chop him in the head. Who are you calling a pervert? I'm just curious. He defended himself. Hentai. Ryuz pointed a finger at Naruto. You're not going to answer. Too bad, I'll ask another person then. He told her as he turned his back and lowered his center of mass, ready to hightail out of there. So, are we just going to ignore the fact that he just controlled sand and created that ball thingy? Saju's words attracted different kinds of stare from the remaining devils. What? He shrugged. He's your partner, the white one. Drake warned. Looks like I was late to the party. Volley said in his balance breaker as he landed and took Kokabil's body. I would have thought you weakling could bring down a cadre fallen angel. He said with his attention on Issei. Hey, who are you calling weaklings? He protested. The victory isn't ours. It belongs to our teacher, Ryuz said. White Dragon Emperor, what are you doing in my territory? I'm here on official business. Grimory, the governor of the fallen angels, orders. Volley said, become strong, Red One. I'm looking forward to the day we battle. He took off to the sky. Azazel, who was perched on a rooftop, recorded all this, and he was troubled. A teacher of Kuo, that outclassed Kokabiel, was worthy of his attention, but now, he had pressing matters in hand. Scene change. Naruto took a leisure pace, admiring the glowing moon as he reflected on the decision he made today. Was it true? What he said to Kokabiel? Would he protect his students, even though they were devils? His mind's eye could see a certain scarecrow eye smiling at him in a foggy weather, telling him he would always protect his little students. Back then, they were just a bunch of talentless genius. He wouldn't admit that Asum was the only one with little talent then. Though Kakashi was a lousy teacher, he was a great shinobi and friend. He would be happy to see him now a teacher protecting his students, and that was enough for him. Right? Kakashi-sensei. He closed his eyes and smiled till he reached his front door, and it disappeared instantly. The doorknob was unlocked, and he was 100% sure he had locked it. Magic couldn't get past his defensive seal. The only thing that could work was brute force or explosion, and there wasn't a dent or burn on the door. He gently twisted the knob and summoned 4 shurikens, which were placed in between his fingers. The scent of ramen hit his nose as he opened the door to peer inside. Come on in. Naruto-chan. A female voice from the kitchen cut Naruto abruptly. I thought you said you were an only child. Another female voice, this one familiar, said. Kuroka. He swung the door open and walked, heading straight for the kitchen. A woman with long silky beige gray hair was mixing something on his counter with her back turned to him, and Kuroka was on one of the chairs sitting in a lax manner. Take a sit again, the stranger cut him off. Why didn't you tell me you had an older sister? Kuroka questioned. Naruto squinted at the stranger. There was something about her. Her presence itself screamed beauty and power, but they felt repressed. He tried to enter sage mode to get a feel of what she was, but when potent nature energy flooded his system, his eyes widened to epic proportions when he finally recognized who it was. Kuroka sat upright when she saw the changes in Naruto's eyes, kept her guard up. His eyes change when he draws nature energy, and whoever this person was, she might be dangerous. With her analysis done, she appeared beside Naruto with and created a magic circle. "I made your favorite," she said as she turned around. "Guy, what are you doing here?" he exclaimed. "Or, don't you like me anymore?" she asked with feigned sadness. "That's not the case, I'm just surprised to see you. In the flesh," he replied as he tried to placate her. "It's good to meet you too. In the flesh." She smiled. Kuroka watched them both with a raised eyebrow. After she was finished with her business, she summoned a magic circle which brought her to Naruto's front door. Expecting to see the blonde man, and she found his door wide open with no sign of Naruto. At first, she was sad. She looked forward to annoying him to no end, but in her wallow, a noise coming from his room caught her attention. As a curious cat, she entered the room thinking maybe it was a burglar, but found something worse, a naked woman searching for one of Naruto's shirt from his wardrobe. Thinking the worst, the black-haired beauty almost blew a gasket before the woman assured her it wasn't what she thought it was. She, the woman, explained who she was, and Kuroka was skeptical at first, but she later calmed down. She decided to stay until Naruto came home, to verify who she was, and now, she had no doubts anymore. "How did you get here?" Naruto made an inquiry as he sat on one of the chairs. "I'll tell you about that later, but first." She dropped a steaming bowl of ramen and chopsticks on the table. "Any you too, Kuroka?" She dropped another. Naruto inhaled the aroma and gave a nod of satisfaction. He split his chopsticks apart and stirred the broth. "I didn't know you had a girlfriend." The shinobi choked on his spit and bathed his chest. "Girlfriend? More like a menace," he stated and swallowed a mouthful of ramen. "That wasn't nice, Naruto-chan." Kuroka agreed with Gaia by gritting her teeth. "You blonde bastard." Naruto ignored her jab and kept on slurping ramen. "Would it kill you to say how have you been, or I miss you HM?" she asked with rising exasperation. "Miss you? Did hell freeze over?" he asked her. "Naruto. Is it that time of the month?" "What time?" "That time when you guys have mood swings," and he did a circular motion with chopsticks in the air. "You're going to die today." The Nekashu didn't have a clue, but when she finally grasped what he meant, she was furious. Kuroka pointed her hands at Naruto, and a purple magic circle hovered over her palms. Naruto beat her to it though. "Ninpo. Genjutsu." Kuroka slumped back to the chair unconscious. Gaia shrugged her roof and started a conversation with Naruto. "I've always wanted to this. Do what? Help you somehow. You've helped me plenty." His lips curved up a bit. "How did you get out?" he asked a burning question. "I'm still not fully out. Thus is just the lowest form I could take without letting my grandchildren know about my escape." "Oh? What did you do to her?" "I put her under an illusion," he explained while staring at Kuroka, who was out cold on the floor, and released a tiny burst of chakra. The black-haired beauty released a groan as the effect of the jutsu wore off. She yawned like a cat and sat back in her seat. "Are you gonna eat that?" he pointed at her ramen. "Yes, here's another bowl for you, Naruto-chan." Naruto eagerly accepted the bowl and blew raspberries at her. Naruto kept on making fun of Kuroka with Gaia observing, and throwing her 2 cents from time to time. For the first, the house was bubbling with noise as a Nekashu turned devil, and a goddess and a displaced ninja conversed into the night, and Naruto liked it if the smirk on his face as he teased Kuroka was something to go by. The Uzumaki mansion would never remain the same, and Naruto loved it like that. Flashback. "How do I do this?" Naruto asked himself. It's been a month since Naruto landed on this strange world, and he was about to make a huge leap that could affect himself, and the strange world he was displaced. Blondie was in front of a barrier with both eyes scanning the blockade furiously. He had finally found Kyoto with the help of Gia, although it took him a while and a lot of effort. He looked forward as he mentally analyzed the situation he was in. First, he could make his way into Kyoto, a strange land filled with strange beings, using brute force and attract attention to himself, and attracting the risk of capture and potential execution. Or 2, he could sneak in like the shinobi he was, and carry out reconnaissance operations. The 13-year-old Naruto would have favored option 1, but option 2 was the best strategy for the current Naruto stranded in DxD. With his mind made up, he walked forward, and placed a hand on the barrier. It was white, and its opacity was top-notch. The shinobi activated the Rinnegan and traced barrier upwards with it, and noticed it was curving inwards like a dome. He walked forward and placed both hands on the barrier, as 2 black rods came out of his hands and lodged itself into the barrier. He kept on stabbing black rods on the barrier until he mapped out a square shape big enough for him to fit in. Satisfied, he did a one-handed tiger seal. The black rods lit an eerie purple as a black kanji for release appeared in his hand. He placed said hand on the barrier, and a jutsu shiki ran across the surface of the blockade. Naruto slapped his other hand on the barrier, and watched as it rippled like an elastic skin. A smile graced his features as his left hand passed through the barrier. He could feel the wind on the other side, and forced his whole body in. The shinobi expected solo ground on the other side, but what his feet made contact with was nothing. He was falling at a fast rate, and the forest became larger as he dreaded the distance between them. Being a ninja, he landed on a tree branch safely and perched on it. He scanned the entire area for threats and heard a twig snap behind him. Alarmed, he spun around and started a chain of hand seals until his gaze landed on a squirrel. He let out a sigh of relief and turned his attention back to the guard's bell. Getting past them was child's play for the Uzumaki as he skillfully maneuvered his way through the trees above. He jumped over the gate and speed through the woods until indistinct chatters reached his ears. The air of Kyoto itself was amazing as he could feel strong chakra around him, and he couldn't wait to explore more. He bust out of the thick vegetation, and an entire different beings greeted his sight. He was so overjoyed he whooped and jumped up. He was one step closer to awakening Kurama and the others, and finding a way back home. He had his mouth open as he stared at the different type of yokai surrounding him and their unique building structure. He quickly sidestepped when a group of armored yokai no-dome soldiers marched around and one of them barked orders at the rest. He couldn't hear them clear, but his advanced hearing could pick some words. Missing, arrest, suspicious. Naruto was the only one wearing a black cloak in there. I knew I should have went for orange. He cursed his attire as he covered his head with the hood and disappeared. Man, I'm hungry, he said as he lagged heavily with a hand on his stomach. Running from those guys was a pain and now his stomach demanded food. His eyes turned to stars and his mouth watered as he ran towards a ramen shop in the distance. Aji-san. 4 bowls of ramen, he ordered with glee. Coming right up, the Yakuya answered from the kitchen. Naruto was jumping around on a stood waiting for ramen and scanning the area when his eyes lands on a little girl sitting beside him staring at the cold ramen in front of her. His negative emotion sensing ability could pick sorrow, regret and self-loathing around her. Here's your order, stranger-san. He took the chopstick hastily and as he was about to wolf down his food, he remembers he didn't have money. He dropped the chopstick and visibly deflated. Though maybe the little girl didn't have any money like he did. Excuse me. He trying to gain her attention. Hello, he tried again. He poked her shoulder with a finger and this time, she turned her head towards him and he could see her golden orbs. She had blonde hair and fox-like ears. Can you lend me money? Naruto rubbed the back of his head. I'm broke right now, but I promise I'd do anything to return it back, he finished with a nice smile. Kunu dropped yokai currency on the table and paid for hers and Naruto's food. The ninja thanked the logs as he ate his favorite food, and Kunu found the sight both fascinating and repulsive. That hit the spot. He slouched and took a deep breath in. The scent of forest and fox hit his nose, which made him remember why he was here. What's your name? He tried to start a conversation. Kunu. What's yours? Naruto. Naruto. Like ramen topping. It's Maelstrom. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't apologize. You did nothing wrong. So, why are you here? What about your parents? He turned to face her. Her mood dampened a bit when Naruto asked about her parents. She never knew her father and her mother was. I don't have a father and my mother. Kunu-chan, a woman, a hot busty blonde woman, who looked like little Kunu entered the shop, and Naruto was starstruck. Not because of her beauty nor bust, but the resemblance they had. Whoa, you guys look alike, he said, gaining Kunu's mother attention. Oh my, I see you have made a friend, she said with an eyes smile. Hahu, he's just a stranger, Kunu exclaimed. Hello, I'm Kunu's mom, Yusaka. She introduced. Hey, I'm Uzumaki Naruto. Nice to meet you, Yusaka-sama. A Tengu-like yokai came barging into the shop breathing heavily. Yusaka turned around and waited till the Tengu Yakuya accomplished himself. She then excused herself as she and the Tengu-like yokai created distance between her child and the blonde stranger. The yokai told her about a breach in their defense system. An intruder was in Kyoto. Impossible, she yelled incredulously. The alarms would have definitely alarmed them of intruders, so how did they know of it? The Tengu, as if knowing the question she had in mind, told her that a squirrel on patrol told the guards about the breach. What do we know about this intruder? Yusaka asked, impatient. She valued the safety of her people the most, and a person skilled enough to enter Kyoto without raising any alarms was detrimental to the yokai. Not much. All we know is that he was wearing a black robe, and he had a hood on, the Tengu-like yokai, Ryujin answered. Yusaka turned her head, and her gaze fell on Naruto, who was conversing with her daughter, who was listening with rapt attention. She had this gut feeling that Nara could be the one, but if he wouldn't have made contact with her. She was after on ultimate class devil level. That would be stupid and suicidal. For now, she would keep an eye on him. Maybe her gut feelings were just wrong, or maybe it was the haze she had ever signed. She entered the noodle shop. Keep this under wraps and comb the surrounding areas around where he was located last. He couldn't have gone far. Yusaka-sama, do you think it's Genryu? Ryujin asked. Genryu, a general monkey yokai in her army, hated her with a burning passion. The yokai was a warmonger as he always proposed they tax the northern faction forcefully and kill Naruto. He had always hated the fact that a woman was ruling Kyoto and Yusaka wouldn't put this stun below him. For now, she would wait and investigate before she take her next move. Keep an eye on him, she ordered, and Ryujin left to carry out his orders. Now, it was time to ascertain Naruto Uzumaki. So, Naruto Uzumaki, what yokai are you? She threw a question at Naruto as she took a seat beside her daughter. Caught off guard, Naruto didn't know what to say. He pondered until Yusaka's golden orbs made contact with his blue ones. What do you mean? He replied. Every yokai has a characteristic or two to show what type they belong to, she said as increased her glare's intensity. Naruto thought hard as he looked around the shop. Everyone had a unique look to them that made them look mystic. Some had tails, elongated ears, etc. But what did he have to make him look like one of them? I'm a whisker yokai, he said, pointing at his whiskers. Everyone squinted their eyes at him except Kunio, who had a look of fascination all over her face. What's a whisker yokai? Haheu, the only child in the shop, asked. Naruto saw they weren't buying his lies, and took to plan B. He did a sealess henge, and with a poof of smoke from his butt, emerged 9 orange foxtails and 2 long fox ears. Yusaka, Kunio, and other yokai in the shop gasped out in pure astonishment. A male fox yokai, the Kyuubi, was once among them once again. The shinobi didn't know he just created massive trouble for himself, a trouble even him with his vast powers couldn't handle. Hahu, Kunio, staring at her mother with white eyes, pointed at the seated shinobi. Where have you been all these while, Kyuubi? Yusaka snarled. Naruto flinched back a bit, thinking he had caused trouble. I won't accept you. I will never accept you as my mate, the only mother roared furiously. Naruto got from his chair and raised both hands up in surrender. Whoa, slow down, I've been. The implication of Yusaka's words hit him like a bullet train as his mouth went wide open and his pupils dilated. What do you mean, mate? He yelled back. Different people started whispering as people gathered to witness the commotion going on in the shop. The news traveled at insane speed around town of a male Kyuubi. The gossips in Kyoto were using a sophisticated 9G network. Doesn't he know? Is he perhaps an outsider? An outsider is a yokai born outside Kyoto, and subsequently, they do not know about their rules and tradition. What sort of trickery is this? Don't point at me, woman. I'll never marry you, fiend. You take that back. Shut up, DRR. Everyone watched as Naruto and Yusaka argued back and forth until the sound of marching soldiers reached their ears. Yusaka, what is this I hear about a male Kyuubi in Kyoto? Genryu walked inside the shop, and he immediately spotted the male Kyuubi everyone was talking about. Said female Kyuubi sent a glare at Genryu, and immediately he knew what that glare meant. I will never marry young, inexperienced Kyuubi like him. She pointed at Naruto, whose ears were twitching badly. I won't have a weakling be my mate. Is she calling weak? Naruto folded his arms and pouted. Kunio, who had been silent, laughed out loud when she saw Naruto pout. Yusaka-sama, it's a tradition passed from eons and we will uphold and enforce it. A group of super old yokai came in and reminded Yusaka about their tradition. The only mother gritted her teeth, not liking the situation she was in. She was fine being a single parent, and having a mate would send ripples she couldn't control around. The presence of a new Kyuubi would affect Kunio the most, as she would be treated as an outcast, as this was territorial behavior exhibited by all male Kyuubis. Her precious daughter's life and overall wellness was threatened by this strange whiskered Kyuubi. Excuse me, don't I have a say in this? Naruto voiced out. I'd rather not have another Nadeshiko incident, he added as an afterthought. You don't, Kyuubi, Genryu replied. I have a name. He was uncomfortable with people calling his partner's name. The unification ceremony will take place in a week. Get to know each other before then, the elders told them both. Unification. Is anybody not seeing the point here? I'm nobody's fucking mate, he cursed out with frustration, which earned a slap from Yusaka. Naruto, boiling with fury, turned around and prepared to let loose, before he calmed down when he saw his assailant's hands covering Kunio's ears. You vulgar trash, she sneered. Naruto's bangs covered his eyes. Hey, I don't want any part of this as much as you do, but this hostility you're throwing at me is too much. No, the Yusaka he just met for the first time was a far cry from the one he was staring at. As a request from a mother, I'm begging you to leave this place. I'm sorry, but I can't. I have my priorities too. Priorities? Yusaka pondered what he meant by priorities. Naruto made his way out of the shop with his head down. All he wanted was a bowl or 10 to fill his stomach and continue his journey, but life was shitty sometimes. Yusaka-chan, looks like you've bagged a hot one for yourself. A blonde Nakamata who was a childhood friend of Yusaka joined the party, which made Naruto sigh. Aha, what are you doing here? I heard about your new mate, and I rushed here to see for myself. He's not my mate. Oyasuka, always the righteous one. If you want him gone so badly, why don't you challenge him to a fight and kill him? The whole shop went silent. Even Naruto. Mistakenly, she added. What an abominable woman. No way, I don't want another Shizuka. Her name reminded him of home. Look here, I don't want to fight anyone. I just want to explore and get the hell out of here as soon as possible. Kyuubi-sama, please stay with us for a week, it'll work us all out. The connection between a male and female Kyuubi is stronger than you think, an elder proposed. My name is Naruto, stay with us Naruto-sama, everyone shouted. We need a male Kyuubi. someone added in the background. Jinyu observed silently and so did Kunu. Aha had different thoughts about the situation. Yusaka wanted Naruto gone and Naruto wanted. Flashback end. Are you ready? Naruto asked Gaia as he stretched his fist at her. They were both sitting Indian style in Naruto's bed as she gave a positive nod and bumped her fist with his. They both blacked out and woke up in Naruto's mind. Welcome to my mindscape, he said as he grabbed her hand and pulled her up. This is your mind. It looks gloomy, she stated. Ouch, Naruto felt his esteem decrease and held his hair in fakered. No offense. None take. I lived inside a sewer for 18 years. Kurama's voice reached their ears as he and his brethren rose from the waters. Gaia was astonished to see enormous 9 different monsters circling them. Some of them had the likeness of an animal, while others had the combination of other animals. They all had a huge amount of power surging inside them. Some were near dragon kings, and others were on heavenly dragon level. Meet the Bijuus, the relics of my homeworld. Scene changed. Ryas and her household, Kaneko, and Gasper exempted, were in attention in a new school building, which was currently used to hold the meeting of leaders of the big 3 factions. The Devil faction, the Fallen Angel faction, and the Angel faction. Sauna, Saji and Sakabi too were present. The leaders themselves were present in all their supernatural glory. Of course they were not alone. Surely, they could take care on their own, but they just can't do without their envoys, or representatives, or sidemen, or lackeys, or bodyguards, or whatever they are called beside them. With the devils, we have Surzich's Gremory, the Sis-Khan, Seraphol Leviathan, another Sis-Khan, Ajuka Beelzebub, the Nerd Devil, and last but not least, Graphia Lucifuge, Ice Queen of the Underworld. They were all seated in a round table, except Graphia who was standing behind her king. On the Fallen Angel's side, there's Azazel, the governor and Penemu, the hot chief secretary with Vali, the White Dragon Emperor, who was leaning on the wall with his hands in his pocket. On the angel's side, we have the legendary Mikaru-sama and his ace, Irini Shido, who was glancing at her former comrade, now devil. Zenovia Corda. Now that everyone is here, shall we commence the peace treaty? Azazel folded his hands on the table. I don't get why you summoned a lot of important figure. Penemu, a purple-haired fallen angel under the chief secretary of the fallen angels, mumbled. A purple hair and an impressive bust, what's next? Oh, and she was beautiful like all supernatural women. Well, recently, an organization known as the Chaos Brigade have been moving in the dark recently. We do not know their goal yet, but I know for sure that they are a threat to the current ceasefire going on. Azazel kicked off with the most pressing matter at hand. What do we know about them? Mekl, the gentle angel, questioned. Not much. All we know is that they are collecting outstanding individuals, and their goal is still unknown. I see. We will have to create a task force to handle them. Ajuka, the smart one, began. A group of our best would suffice. That will be discussed later. We are here for the peace treaty. Recently a person has brought my attention to the shitty ceasefire we called for, and I for one would like to rectify that, so, to that end, I apologize for the rude actions my subordinate took. He was out of line. Well, fortunately, someone stopped him before he could create a disaster. Seraphol said. Yes. He was stopped by an unknown variable here in Kuo. Surzichus glanced at Ryazan and the rest of them. An unknown variable. Naruto Uzumaki, you mean? You know him, Azazel? Surzichus questioned. Azazel folded his hands on his chest and leaned backwards. Yeah, I met him today. That guy was something else. He's strong, Surzichus. He stared at the leaders in the room. Everyone who knew Naruto had surprise written all over their face, while those that didn't, the leaders had a look of disbelief on their face. A faction leader calling someone strong was a big deal. The Longinus? Ajuka asked about Naruto's sacred gear. He assumed Naruto had a god tier sacred gear. Nope. Twice critical. Penemu asked. He doesn't have a sacred gear. The look on Azazel's face made the leaders straighten their backs. Azazel was rarely serious. Was this more serious than they thought? He had zero magic in him. In fact, I couldn't trace a thing in him. Surzichus let out a frustrated sigh as he massaged his temples. He's tuning into a headache, that Naruto Uzumaki. What do you mean, Surzichus? Ajuka asked in concern. Ajuka, do you remember that seal I gave you after Rhea's raiding game with Riser? Of course. Ajuka remembered Surzichus strolling into his lab with the dark ink scribblings on a white sheet of paper. Ajuka at first dismissed the urgency before Surzichus told him the abilities that paper possessed, and its implications. It didn't take much time before the smart devil connected the dots. He created something like that, and he was in Kuo, and he was teacher, and you tell me he has no magic nor sacred gear. That's right. Azazel answered cheerfully. And you guys left someone like that unchecked. Ajuka deadpan. Was this Naruto? Michi laughed. An image of Naruto with a bored look on his face, and his arms folded, appeared in the center of the table. At first glance everyone had a question on their mind about the tattoo on his face. Oh, it's him. Arena pointed at the projected image of Naruto. Michael glanced at Arena behind her. That's the human who saved me, Michael-sama. Zenobia and Irina's eyes met briefly before Irina looked away. What do we know about him really? Ijuka was itching for some info on Naruto. The kids should know about him. Suzette was referring to the high school students in the house. The leading part directed their attention at the students. Even Volley leaned forward wanting to know a thing or two about the blonde. We don't know much about him, but I can tell you the fight he had with Kokabiel was one-sided. He came out victorious without a scratch. Rias said. He could control sands telepathically. Keno stated. He could make solid copies of himself. Zenobia remembered seeing different copies of the blonde human fighting Kokabiel. She at first thought them illusions. B for one of said illusions punched Kokabiel. He's really fast. He helped increase my speed, and I couldn't keep up with him in a race. Kiba had a look of gratitude on his face. Now that was some info. The blonde star had speed that surpassed a mid-class devil. Naruto-sensei is a scary person, but his house was nice. Kaneko said emotionlessly. Scary? Penemu asked. Kiba, Asia, Rias, Akeno, and Zenobia shivered according to descending order of magnitude in relation to their fear for Naruto. Issei on the other hand, poor Issei was having a flashback filled with fire, broken bones and super punches. Naruto-sensei might be strict and cold sometimes, but I don't think he's evil. Aja answered honestly. I've only had a conversation with him once, but he's not easily intimidated. Sona's glasses gleamed as she spoke. Naruto-san was awesome. That last technique completely wrecked Kokabiel. Saki retold the last part with excitement. Yeah, it packed power and damage. The attack drilled right through his back and left a nasty scar. I've never seen anything like it, Azazel said. The solar system. Tsunamis steal the attention of the leaders. I don't understand. Azazel complained. The attack looked like a mini solar system. Instead of the sun and 9 planets, it had 5 or 6 small blue orbs the size of a fist, orbiting a big blue orb on his right palm. Tsubaki explained in detail. That's one unique technique. Seraphil wanted to see what they spoke of. Fashioned after the solar system. Impressive. Azazel stated. Everybody present focused their attention on the last student. The one that might know Naruto on a personal level. Issei-kun. Surzich's called sapping Issei out of his flashback. Yes. He stuttered. How much do you know about Naruto? Everyone leaned forward with squinted eyes. Me? Why me? Issei was sweating bullets by now. He could tell them everything he knows, and risk his head, or withdraw some info about Naruto, but what if they asked for more? Well, he stuttered with his hands behind his head. I don't know much about your neighbors. You're the only one he tolerates. You and Asia. You were his student for a week. He gave you that seal. Darn it. Why are you all? Should we continue? His fellow students asked. They had a list of reasons. The leaders had an I'm waiting look on. He's friends with your mom. Rias added. Alright. Issei was very uncomfortable with the fact that his mother liked Naruto. Naruto-sensei is. I don't know much about you guys, but he's a good man. After all, he saved us, and helped free you. He pointed at Rias, although indirectly. What if he was a member of Kao's brigade, and was playing nice with us to lower our guards? Rias quipped. Issei facepalmed at Rias' accusations against Naruto. Naruto-sensei. Nice. Those words don't match at all. Rias flinched back because she wasn't expecting a simple yet effective answer from Issei. That might be true. He could be a potential enemy. Ijuka said. Well, I think you guys are wrong. Issei's declared with fire in his eyes. Sensei isn't someone interested in battles, or fame, or glory or anything. He's someone who would react to the world ending with the world is coming to an end. Oh, well. With a casual shrug. Issei tried to mimic Naruto's voice. I used to think that. I thought his only redeemable qualities was his pretty face and nice, but he saved Rias from a terrible fate somehow, helped train me and Kiba, save Irina from Freed, and save the school and Kuo from Kokabiel, and I for one, will vouch for him. Sensei is not a bad guy. Total silence followed after Issei's rant. Rias had a look of astonishment on her face. Why was she against the blonde this much? Make no mistake, bat brat. I would have killed you. You annoy me, little bat. Her mind's eye could see Naruto saying that with a bored face on. The blonde was apathetic towards her sometime, and it infuriated the ruined princess to no end. The way he looked down on her like she was an ant was something Rias had never experienced. She was a damn princess, and next in line, to become the head of a great devil household. Naruto was just a human with powers above hers, and this was exasperating. Issei's right. He's great. Azazel gained back the attention of everyone in the room. I met him today, and I tried to intimidate him. He didn't flinch at all. Are you serious, Azazel? Penemu asked in disbelief. A neutral party. Michael concluded. It doesn't change the face that we have little data on his abilities, and how he performs them without magic. Ijuka complained. I've always wondered how he could breathe out fire. Issei mumbled a little too loud. He can breathe fire. Rias questioned. Make copies, breathe fire, control sand, manipulate blue orbs of unknown origin. What's next? He can raise the dead. Graphia spoke for the first time. Masursaches, I'd love to meet him. Let's pay him a visit. Scene change. Achoo. Naruto wiped his nose clean with his sleeves. Why do I feel like I have been betrayed? A tingling feeling told him that powerful people were scheming behind him. That's a lot of signature, Dadabayo. Naruto sat with his hands behind him supporting his weight as he gazed at the twinkling stars in the sky. Kyoto Academy had different signatures brimming over it tonight, and the shinobi wanted nothing to do with it. All he wants is to live the rest of his days in peace, but before that, he still had one more thing to do. The ninja closed his eyes as exhaled gently, and drew in nature energy. Every living thing within Kyoto entered his sensor range from the little insects flying around to the drunk old man a block away. Given the abilities of Sage Mode, he could sense a lot of supernatural beings in Kyoto Academy. A vague image of a red dome flashed through his mind. Those bats were at it again. Wait, there's more. Crows and doves. That's bad. Someone once told him those three races were like a time bomb, if put together in a room. They seemed stationary though, some of them. There were strong signatures in there. The Grimoire and others were in there too, and that new guy he met this afternoon. His signature too powerful to forget. Thanks for listening. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. And also check out the playlist that I have created, and enjoy. Link is in the description. See you in the next video. Peace.